Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Employment Law Report podcast. I'm Anthony Zaller. I'm here with Yaron Tillis today. We're going to be covering this video that was recorded by a woman that was laid off. She posted the recording on TikTok. And we thought as employment lawyers, there were some good takeaways, both pros and cons on how this process went down, and use it as a good learning opportunity for employers on how to conduct a termination, what to do and what not to do. And it's important to note, we're not here to judge the employee. We're not here to judge the managers. We're going to have critical feedback for everybody, but we understand it's a difficult process, and we approach this with compassion and want to just use it as a learning opportunity.
I absolutely agree. This whole event, terminations, it's a fluid process. It's a human process. So there is no one right way. And we're going to take this opportunity. Each of us received this TikTok video by link from various contacts independently. And when we realized we both got the same links, it was probably a good idea to throw our 2 cents in and see what we have to say about it.
Yep, great. So let's jump into the video. It starts off with some text. The woman knew she was going to be terminated. Her friends in the department received a call 15 minutes earlier. She knew it was coming, so she prepared recording it. She was going to push back a little bit on the employer too, and that's how we get into this situation.
Nice to meet you. I'm on the HR team.
Hi, Brittany.
Hi.
Thanks for meeting with me and Rosie. We have an important meeting today.
And the text she put up says she doesn't know these people. They're not her managers. It's random people from the company doing the termination.
We decided to part ways with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Sure.
So I started August 25th. I've been on a 3-month ramp, and then it was 3 weeks of December, and then a week of Christmas, and then here we are. I have had the highest activity amongst my team. Since I started, I have had 3 contracts out, done a really great job managing my deals up until the very end that decided not to close last minute. So I don't think that makes a lot of sense for me in my Cloudflare journey here so far. Also, every single one-on-one I've had with my manager, every conversation I've had with him, he has been giving me nothing but, I am doing a great job, I have had great activity, I have really great meetings, I'm picking up the products very quickly, and things have been going really, really well. I make really great relationships with my clients. So I disagree that my performance hasn't been, I haven't met performance expectations, when I certainly have, just because I haven't closed anything officially.
I think that's a good place to stop. There's a lot to unpack there, and we can touch on different things. But right out of the gate, and I don't know if you were able to hear on the video, but when they started, the brief explanation that they gave to Brittany was that this termination is for performance-related reasons. The balance of it is Brittany attempting to provide reasoning, maybe excuses, why she disagrees with that. And so I think this is a good area to touch on.
And a couple issues too, before we get into what she was saying, I want to get your take on it, your own. One, she knew it was coming. Does that create some issues from the employer's perspective? What's some risks with that?
Sure, no, that's fair. So one of the things that comes to mind with something like this is there is a part that is performance-based, that the employer, here the HR and the other individual that was on this particular call, they are getting blindsided, if you will. They don't know that it's being recorded. And there is a sense with Brittany, she knows this. She knows what her intended purpose is, which is likely to post this online and social media. So there is a performative aspect to it, which is problematic because the drama is part of the performance, arguably.
Yep.
So that's one issue.
The other concern too, I've seen it with a number of clients where the employee knows they're going to be terminated like this. It gives them opportunity to prepare, like Brittany is in this case, record it. We'll talk about the recording here issue in a minute. But I've had some clients in a warehouse where they walk down to get the employee, tell the employee, hey, you have to walk up to the executive office, HR with me. The employee knows they're going to be terminated. They slip and fall while they're walking through the warehouse.
Now, that's an excellent point. One of the things that I am often telling clients and speaking with when they are contemplating the termination of an employee is internally when the decision has been made, you don't want to delay in executing that decision for that precise reason. Who knows what can happen? Other issues may come up that when an employee knows what's coming, especially if they're savvy with California employment law, there's lots of red flags that could make an employer apprehensive to proceed with the termination.
Yep. And then here we've got a group, it sounds like. The employer's laying off this group of employees. They're doing it one by one, but word's spreading quickly throughout the group. These calls are coming. So that's when she's tipped off by her friend, the other employee, that this call is coming. You've mentioned this to me before. I think a good practice is to do that group termination together then. If it's the whole department, do it as a group so you avoid this gossip and the inevitable calls before they get terminated.
Yeah, and to dovetail on that issue, absolutely. I think when we're talking about, and in this instance, they are talking about a department-wide issue, multiple layoffs. We know that's the case because Brittany was aware of this in advance because some of her colleagues in the department had already gone through this 15-minute meeting with HR and got terminated. And so in addition to preparing, it also creates the sense that because it's one-on-one, and you can go both ways on this, but because it's one-on-one, there is a personal aspect to it. You, as the employee, may feel like you are being singled out, and when they mention performance-related reasons, it's your performance, which I think is part and parcel why Brittany reacts the way she does, defending her personal experience. And I think if it was department-wide, the performance of the department as a group is the basis, maybe the basis for the termination. If that's the case, then why single out and go employee by employee? When you have it as a group, you take away that personal aspect. You don't internalize it, and you may be a top performer in a bad group, and it doesn't feel as harmful. Right.
And it's one of the key parts of a termination is the reason for the termination. You need to be clear on that, and it needs to be accurate. So if it's for this employee's performance, it needs to be rock solid. It's your performance. Stick to that reason. Have it documented. If it's we're letting the department go, that's the reason. Don't make up some other reason. Well, it's your performance. Or don't say something vague like performance when the employee means, is that my performance? Or when you might mean the whole department's performance. So you need to have that crystal clear.
No, you're absolutely right. When we're talking about what sometimes happens, sort of the aftermath of these things, is sometimes there's litigation. And it always goes back to one of the most important things in litigation and defending these cases is what is the stated reason for termination? You need to be rock solid, whatever it may be. And in this instance, they went with her performance. And we're going to touch on that later. And I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but then you got to stick to your guns.
To it. Some other things really quick, and we'll jump back into the video. Zoom termination, any problem with that? Do you have any concerns? I mean, it's part and parcel today, right?
It is. I mean, this day and age, it's ever changing. We're doing things remote. Some are, some aren't. Zoom is part of the landscape now. Some of the issues that I have with Zoom terminations is it's impersonal. There are documents typically that you like to have executed when you are discharging and going through that process, that exit interview. There's certain forms you want signed. I don't know how that's going to be effectuated through Zoom. That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, but sometimes it's the only way you can do it.
Agreed.
And I get the call from clients too, the employee remote. The only employee we have in the state of California working, can we fire them over the phone. You can fire them over email. There's nothing legally requiring it, but thinking through some of these practical aspects is key on that. And then the other thing is termination by two people she's never met.
I'm not a fan. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. I think it's a good idea that there are multiple people on the call. So
yeah,
on the plus side, thumbs up for employer to have two people on. I would have liked to have seen one of those people be personally familiar with the employee being terminated,
yeah.
whether it's the immediate supervisor, direct or manager, or someone in the group on a management level. But I don't see that here.
Yep, I agree. And just having somebody that knows her can answer some of these questions a little more definitively. And you'll see we get into this issue later where one of the managers is like, we'll follow up with you maybe. Yeah, I can't answer that right now. And it's this weird dynamic. But it'd be nice to have a few more solid answers. But again, you need to be careful. You're not really getting into arguing with the employee on whether they performed well or not. You need to state your stated reason. If it's performance, stick with performance and just say, look, you might not understand or agree with us right now on that decision, but that's our decision and we're moving forward.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Also, why are you doing this and not my manager, we've never met, so this seems a little odd that my manager has no idea that this has been happening and the director has no idea that this has been happening. So I'm just definitely confused and I would love like an explanation that makes sense.
100%. Real quick, let me carve out the two threads, a ladder of why I'm on this conversation. I'll put that one, the second half, and Rosie might be better to explain the process of who's getting this information in the prior piece, which is your feedback and notes about your performance. So we add a little color context to that. So just for clarification, you're not being singled out in this. Your peers are also being collectively.
So now it's getting kind of confusing. It's like, is it her performance? Is it the department's performance? Now the employer's not entirely clear. They need to stick with one or the
Can you
other.
explain for me
Exactly.
why Brittany Peach is getting let go?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. It's a good question that was prompted by the opening that they're letting her go for performance-related reasons. And we just heard as this individual, and again, not judging, he's stumbling over because they weren't very well prepared. And that's okay. At least he was being cautious about, not saying the wrong thing or something that is, incorrect or improper. And so you can almost hear the wheels turning and him trying to navigate this process, which I can respect. So
right.
that's good. But in that, he only then made it clear that it's the department and not her. But Brittany's already, I want to know what my performance issue was, because that's how they started.
Yep. And with that said, too, the employer, we understand, like the manager maybe is fighting for his or her job right now, too, or fighting to keep a few positions alive in the company. And just the reality is you can't be everywhere all the time, right. And there's bigger issues sometime, and maybe that's why these other two people had to step in. So again, not making any judgment calls on that. Just do the best you can, and we don't know the backstory on what's going on with the employer on this.
One more thing, just before we continue, is the question that was presented was, okay, I want to know specifically why I'm getting let go, and here is the issue when we talk about preparation and singling out an individual for performance-related reasons. Here is where you need to have the information. If it's performance-based and there are certain metrics, then just have that ready.
Yeah.
And just know. It's not going to change. This whole discussion, no matter what, won't change the termination decision. She's not going to convince them. Or certainly, she shouldn't be. They shouldn't be in the meeting with, well, if she makes a good point, we'll reconsider.
Right.
The decision is done. Whatever she says is not going to change it. But they should have some information to hopefully appease her or satisfy her on this issue.
Yep. And if they don't, and if the company's made the decision and she's an at-will employee here in California, the manager should just stick to that. It's performance. We're not here to argue the details. The decision's been made. We're moving forward, and don't get into this back and forth. There's no resolution that's going to be acceptable to the employee at that point.
Correct.
Won't be able to go into specifics for numbers.
Wait, why though? I just started. I've been working extremely hard. Just because I haven't closed anything that has nothing to do with my performance on a 3-month ramp with just 1 month with two major holidays in the middle.
Can we stop it just for 1 second? I think this is an important point because I don't know exactly what her position is, but I suspect if she is in sales in a particular department, the metric will likely be closing deals, okay? She's essentially conceded here that during the time that she's been with this employer, she has not closed any deals. Everything else is white noise, reasoning why. They're reasonable reasons. But at the end of the day, she hasn't closed a deal, and she admits it. This is so important for the people listening on, the HR and this is an opportunity for them to hunker down and just go back to, it was performance-based, you didn't close any deals. There's lots of reasoning.
Yeah.
But that's the issue.
Right. I agree.
I think that has anything to do with why I should be let go, if that makes sense. So I really need an answer and an explanation as to why Brittany Peach is getting let go, not why Cloudflare decided to hire too many people and are now actually realizing that they can't afford this many people and they're letting that go. If that's the real answer, I would rather just you tell me that instead of making up some bullshit and telling me that right before I lose my job from someone that I've never met before.
But by the way, there's nothing really wrong. Again, California is an at-will employment state. Absent any employment contracts, if you overhired and you have to let some people go, that's okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can totally respect that, and I don't think Dom or myself today is going to give you any clarity or answers.
I like that response.
Look, meet the expectations that
you're not going to be happy with our decision. We respect that, but we're moving forward. I really like that response.
Yes.
But now don't let her reframe the issue. We've given a reason. It's performance.
To give you the data that was calibrated. I'll need to speak with revenue leadership specifically to see if we can get that for you. But Dom,
so this is HR speak, right? We'll circle back. We'll get the information, and I don't want to be hypercritical, but if I was a betting man, I would tell you that she's never going to hear from them again. They're not going to circle back.
Yeah.
Once the determination is done, it's done. Don't give any false promises.
Yeah.
But I do like the way she handled that. And I thought she did a good job in taking that question and letting her know that I don't have it. I don't think anything we're going to say is going to appease you. That's right.
We understand it's tough. But and that's where I would just reframe that a bit and say, and I wouldn't start promising more information. We're going to follow up with you, things like that. Like the decision's been made. We're moving forward. And understand where you're coming from. Show some empathy for the employee. It's difficult for them. And the employer in this scenario, I think, does a really good job on that too. Is really understanding, not pushing back on the employee too hard or making it like an embarrassing moment or anything like that. So they're doing a good job on that.
Yeah, I would agree. Everything we've heard so far, and I think we're going to continue, is at a bare minimum, the tone that they're taking with her. She's upset. She's emotional. Totally understandable. And their tone, their demeanor is compassionate.
Yep.
She may not like what they're saying, but the way in which they're saying it, I think is good, and they're being very patient with her.
Yep, for sure.
I cannot share that with you right now, unfortunately. Yeah. It's understandable how you feel and your frustration. Cannot stress that enough.
I have been working extremely hard. I just knew that this meeting was coming after knowing what's been happening with my peers and how extremely frustrated and upset everyone is. I know you guys must not be able to understand that given in the positions that you are in, and it must be very easy for you to just have these little 10-minute, 15-minute meetings, tell someone that they're fired, completely wreck their whole life, and then that's it with no explanation. That's extremely traumatizing for people, if you can imagine that. And I don't think that this is, it's just very, very shocking. Very, very shocking. I have like really given my whole energy and life over the last 4 months to this job. And to be let go for no reason is like a huge slap in the face from a company that I really wanted to believe in.
I can absolutely understand how you feel that way, why you feel that way. And I'll be honest with you, there's nothing that we're going to say in this call in the time that we have that's going to undo the way
Good
that
response.
you feel right
I like
in this
it.
moment. I personally will do everything that I can to give you as much specific information as I can after this call.
And I might push back a little bit to the employee trying to reframe it like no reason at all. It's like, no, we've given you a reason, and make that clear.
Right, that would have been a good time to remind her the reason has already been given. She just doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So, but you guys have still not given me a reason why I'm being let go.
Push back there again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the metric was closing deals,
Right.
she hasn't closed a deal. This is a simple one.
Yeah.
Great meetings that I'm having, the amount of activity
And I understand
that
where the
have
employer's
has
coming
all
from.
been
They're being
positive.
compassionate,
I have not received
but
any negative
they need to be
inclination. I have not been
forceful
put
on that
the
reason.
plan,
Right.
nothing. So
And I cannot speak to what your manager has communicated to you directly.
but that
You
should
are
be the
let go
indication of
for performance based on your attainment and leading indicators of data. That is the rationale.
But I've been here for only a month after ramping, and that was during the holiday. So I don't understand can you explain what those performance metrics are? Or is that just like a vague term to give to everyone that you're speaking to today?
It's fair. She's upset and heated, and what she's hearing is a lot of generalities, unclear whether or not they have them and they don't want to disclose them, or they don't know what they are.
Right. Right. But it's a tough call here.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to get into an argument with the employee at this point, too, if you do have specifics. Overview is good, and you don't want to get into, well, on this date, this happened, and
Absolutely.
we could be there for 2 hours, and it's just you're not going to appease the employee. It's difficult. Mm-hmm. And if anything, it's just going to give them more evidence on, no, you were wrong because you can't explain this. Yeah.
Right.
I'll say that the performance indicators and performance metrics are, while we're not able to go into specifics, and there's no situation where we will be able to go into
Do you guys even know, like, why, like, who you're talking to each day? Like, every single 10, 15 minutes, do you guys even know who you're talking to? Like, why you're letting these people go? When you don't even understand, like, the kind of work and...
So again, we're talking about reframing the issue. This is not an indictment, or shouldn't be an indictment, of HR or the business and how they're handling anyone else. This is a one-on-one meeting with Brittany. The only issues are Brittany related, and as it relates to the company and Brittany.
Yeah.
How others are treating, what they know about the others has nothing to do with this. And here's where they got to be firm that.
And bring it back.
That's right.
Yeah,
Let's bring it back. Bring it back to the discussion at hand.
Yep.
that they put in.
I hear you and what you're saying.
It just doesn't make any sense that you guys have still not been able to give me a reason why I'm
Again,
being let go.
push back. And it'd be good. For the third time, we're telling you it's for the performance.
That's right.
Your questions are valid. This isn't going to be the forum and the situation where we're able to go into the detail that you're looking for.
But then when? If it's not right as I'm getting fired, it's certainly not going to be after when I'm no longer part of the company.
She's not wrong.
I don't think there's anything we can say in this moment or today, Brittany, that's going to change the way that you feel. And it's understandable. I'm taking notes.
Manager's doing good, trying to bring it back. Like, yep, but we're moving on.
Yeah.
The outcome of the meeting. It's not going to change the outcome of the situation today. So it may be best if I do get into more of the specifics of what the next steps are.
So I like this a lot.
I think it's clear that you have questions that we cannot give answers to. And if you'd be open to it, I'd love to move into what the next steps are. so that you're not any further blindsided than you already feel.
Okay.
Yep.
So I thought that was
Done.
I thought that was a very good response by this HR rep.
Yep.
Just refocusing.
Again, I'm really sorry that you're having this experience and feeling this way. One of the things that we want to confirm is your personal email address.
Yep. And it wraps up right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was, they were being extremely patient with her and could have gotten to this even earlier with all the pushback, but ultimately they get there, which is refocusing, recalibrating what the point of this discussion is. It's not going to change the outcome, and let's get through some of the other important details as part of this exit.
Yep. Yep. Now, some other issues I wanted to discuss, recording. Can employees record meetings with their employers? And it comes up a lot, regularly, actually. Clients call and the employee says, well, I want to bring a witness with me into the workplace to watch our meeting and hear what's going on, or I want to record our meeting. Do employees have that right? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, California is a state that requires consent from both parties for a recording. You cannot surreptitiously record. So unless the employer agrees, the employee makes the request to record the meeting and the employer agrees, it can't be recorded. Or what I should say, it can be recorded. Mm-hmm. You can't stop them if you don't know what's happening. But legally, you cannot use it. It would be inadmissible for any purpose at court or some hearing in regards to this. And it's under the penal code section. It's a crime to do that.
To record somebody without their knowledge.
Without their consent, correct.
Yep. So, and even if the employee consents to it being recorded, I don't think it's a good practice for employers to record these types of meetings. Have your witness there, document it, but I just generally don't like having recordings and videos and things like that around.
Yeah, I agree. I don't happen to know where this was done. The reason I mentioned California as being a two-consent state is there are many states in the U.S. that it only requires the consent of one of the participating parties. And so in that instance, Brittany could be recording unbeknownst to her employer.
Yep.
And
Arizona, I believe, is a one consent.
Okay.
One party.
I know there's many others.
Yeah. So only one person has to know, the person recording, and it's acceptable to record. So, yep. That's
right. And here, I don't know if you could hear it or pick it up on the video, but at the beginning, I believe they had said, the employer, HR, and they had said that they are recording this video. At that point, it raises other issues, but effectively, they have waived or consented to a recording.
Yep.
And arguably, it doesn't matter that they don't know she's recording it as well.
Right.
At that point, they have consented to a recording of this. And to harken back to what you had said at the outset of this question, it's not my recommendation that these be recorded.
Right. Yep. Good point. And then I've had it come up where clients will say, we've got an employee asking to bring somebody into the meeting, a witness, a family member sometimes, or a representative into a meeting with their employer. Now, the employer can control that. And again, I generally don't recommend that. Mm-hmm. There might be some extreme circumstances where you might just want to get this thing resolved and bring in a representative or something, but 99% of the time, no. And the employer has the right to say, no, this is an employment or business-related issue. It's only the people involved in the company that get to be in the meeting and can control that. So that's another issue. Yep.
Yeah.
Some general takeaways that I have to the process. Have the final paperwork here in California, the end of employment paperwork, final paycheck. Have that all set out. Be professional about it, as the company representatives in this video were, but document the reason if you have a reason for the termination. And if it's a tough, the employee's not going to like to hear it. You need to be careful. Don't sugarcoat it too much. Mm-hmm. If it's a good reason for cause termination, you need to stand on that, because it's going to be easier to defend against a lawsuit in the future. If the employee says, well, you really terminated me for this other illegal reason, it's like, no, you didn't close and we need people to close. We told you this on day one. You didn't close a single sale for 4 months you were with us. And then that's going to be a lot easier to defend in litigation. Yep. And just understand it's difficult for everybody involved. It's going to be difficult for the employee. Be ready for that. Be prepared. How you're going to answer these tough questions. How you're going to bring it back. And understand for your managers as well. It's difficult for your managers or the person going through the termination. It's just a tough process. Not a lot of people like doing this. So just understand that. And it might be good to do some training for managers, role play with the managers, how to deal with difficult situations, questions like this, and how to do that. And with practice, it gets a little easier too.
Yeah, there's certain responses you get from employees on a regular basis. So those are the things you can role play through. If something comes out of left field, it is what it is, and you roll with the punches. But if you stay centered on the reason for the termination, it's not personal, and that human resources is about humans. We keep the compassion, and we remember that, everybody's got a story and a life, and this is upsetting. In this case, it was Brittany, and being terminated is a difficult task for everybody involved.
Yeah.
But happy employees don't sue, and employees that feel like they've been heard rarely sue.
Right. And that's what I come back to is even though the employee doesn't agree with the decision, if it's done with respect, ultimately they might not understand it at the time of termination, but a week or two down the road, look back on it and say, look, I understand where the employer was coming from. I don't agree. It wasn't pleasant, but I ultimately understand why they had to make that decision. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know Brittany from anybody, but I feel confident that she's going to land on her feet. She's definitely, she can communicate, she can stand up for herself and advocate. And I feel like she will be fine. I hope that comment doesn't come back to bite me, but I feel like she is going to.
No, I think she's already got job offers
from
this and everything. And, and I don't know the intent of the video, but it's a great learning process. And the fact that this is out there and employers can use this as a training video too, and how to handle a difficult termination. So it's a great learning process for everybody involved.
And just one more thing. I mean, you wouldn't think of it, but from the employer side, who's actually going through these termination process, think of it as though it may be recorded.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they did not realize that they would be on the other end of a viral video in the way in which they conducted that termination. That's
a good point. I've been involved in some cases where even in-person conversations or terminations are being recorded on an iPhone, and it comes out after the fact that there's a recording. So keep that in mind. And again, it might be illegal, it might not be admissible, but the fact that there's a recording out there, you need to be aware that it possibly could be recorded. So, yeah.
Right.
Well, thanks for your thoughts. This was insightful, good practice for me too, and thinking about the process of terminations. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Any closing thoughts before we go?
No, I think that had it, but thanks for doing this, and I thought it was a good time, and it's fun to get a little TikTok video in our daily routine.
Yeah, there
here.
we go. And hopefully we'll get our TikTok presence going here after this too. So thank you, everybody. Please let us know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you soon.